Thank you so much, Bhavesh. I have been looking forward to this conversation probably since I saw your first video on Instagram.
Very grateful.
I'll tell you why also, because tell me if my understanding is accurate. I think the spiritual corpus, literature, the religious tradition and ritual and deities and all this sort of history that we come from may not necessarily be a literal history. I think the video I saw of you, because it's been a few years, was about either Ma Kali or it was about Shiv Shankar Maharaj. And the way you had framed how to interpret them was very like, I could touch it, I could feel it. It's not some distant deity, it was an understanding of the world that you'd offered through that symbol. Is that an accurate way of understanding?
True, because the fact is, whenever you read something, what is written by the rishis and what you interpret is something very different.
Right.
However, when you experience it and you talk on your basis of that experience, you will realize that what was written is true. So when you talk about deities or talk about anything, it is actually happening. So I think Anubhav talks, experience talks.
So you were saying that your life experience becomes easier to understand using that symbol?
Intellectually, no. Experientially, yes.
Explain.
So first it starts with intellect. That suppose we see Kali Ma holding something. It is intellect that she'll do this. But once you actually experience it, you will relate it.
How does one experience this?
The best way to experience is work on the ego. Understand there's a greater energy that is working. And walk on the path. Walking on the path is like have discipline, do sadhana. And knowledge is very important. Without knowledge, nothing can happen. But excess of knowledge is also a problem.
Because it will become an obstacle.
Yeah. So knowledge plus experience is wisdom. That is what we need. And especially for our generation. Because we need evidence, we need logic mind. And I think spiritual is very logical and experiential, not fearing.
I was giving you this background about myself before. I think my most unpolluted direct access into the spiritual world comes from my experience with Vipassana, right? The first time around I went as a silence challenge.
Yeah.
But God deals you what he wants to deal you, not what you ask, right?
Definitely.
So I'm in there saying, can I stay silent for 10 days and like, can I be alone for 10 days? But what is happening inside of me is magic, is waves, is bubbles bursting and like good and bad, painful and sad, right? All of that is happening. And I realize, because Goenka ji insists, Goenka ji plays on a video because he's since passed and he talks about the experience you're having every day. And he will say, listen, do not try to intellectualize this. Don't ask me questions about philosophy.
True.
I'm from a philosophy background. I'm offended. He's saying this. He's like, only experience. And so day one, I'm like, what are you talking about? Don't talk about philosophy. Day two, I'm like, Arey, what are you talking about? Don't talk. And slowly I'm getting milder. Arey, sir, what are you saying? Till the day 6 comes and I'm like, no, experience is something completely different.
Definitely.
And my education in the Western canon has not prepared me for understanding experience. Now, I know that experience and intellect are different inside. How do you explain it to somebody who does not?
See, it is very, very simple. No, we are living in a world of duality. A factor.
Yes, like what do you mean duality?
Duality means wherever there is happiness, there is sorrow. Wherever there is gain, there is pain. Where there is win, there is loss also. We are living in this world and no one can run away from it. A factor. Even now at this point of time, you have everything. Next moment, everything goes. No one knows what is going to happen. Agar aap ye acceptance mein ho, so you understand that life is like this. Now what happens is the space of intellect. Now when you understand spirituality, it is a space beyond intellect. Where experience is talking. It is not written in any book. And more than that, every experience is unique. If we both are doing meditating, we won't have the same experience.
Agreed.
Yeah. Initially bubble hoga, white light dikhega, but those are not experiences. Those are just mind going to higher, whatever it is.
Right.
So everyone is unique. So that is a space where your sadhana starts. So in the beginning, it's all physical, all repetitive. But once, and 6 days you experience, imagine you're maintaining that for 1 year. You will be completely evolved.
And so the experience is me actually doing something. And then from there, a consequence emerging, which is completely unique to me.
Yep. But beyond that also, there's a state that is a very high state where you realize that I don't want to call it samadhi because there are different types of samadhi and that's a new term. But there are states where you become a witness of everything.
Witness of the happenstance of your life.
Yeah. Matlab, you participate. See, who was a yogi if you ask me? I would believe a yogi or a very evolved being as a person who has no expectations, no desire, no attachment, but complete participation in the game of life.
No attachment, but complete participation.
Yeah, that means he's also crying, but at the end, deep inside, he knows that, okay, you know what?
Crying
It
is a performance?
Yeah, as a performance.
Right.
Internally, I'm not this.
Right.
So I'm cooking. Okay, he's my relationship. He's my brother. But at one of the days, he's going to die. A temporary, but internally, you're established. I think it's a very high state of being. Then life becomes a game, as you said.
Right. Actually, my interaction with spirituality and philosophy and such, and the way I think actually everybody at the base of their mind is philosophical. Okay? Everybody has a operating system. This is my worldview that people say, right? And my worldview comes from realizing, this Vipassana opened up for me, is that, see, beyond all of what is happening, inside, I'm just silently watching.
Yeah.
And that door did not exist before that. I didn't know कि ऐसा भी कुछ है, because otherwise I was sad. I was in the sadness. I was sad. I don't want to be sad. But then I realized I could just step back and be like, oh, sadness is happening.
Yeah, of course.
And once that happened, I think a lot of my opinions about life changed. And I was like, now if I'm playing a game, I'm playing.
Yeah.
Win or lose, whatever, mind.
And you're not judging your own game. You're not getting entangled in your emotions. You're watching it as a, the beautiful phrase that all these are passing clouds. I'm the sky.
Huh.
So, all this is passing. Lust, anger, desire. You are the sky.
Right.
If you realize, then you watch the cloud going, you participate also in it. But internally, you're not shaken up. That is awareness. If you're aware about your existence.
Okay.
But we drop down because it is difficult to maintain that state. And once you maintain that state, then you become a very highly evolved walking being on earth.
Right. Why is it so difficult to maintain that state?
Because we have been conditioned, no? For such a long time. अरे ये भावेश है, ये इसका height है, ये इसका नाम है. Vedanta calls it name and form. We are so conditioned to give name and form to everything. That is a conditioning. We are just making you realize that, okay, there's something beyond that also.
Right. Fair. I wanted to start my line of questioning by asking you, how do you self-identify? Do you think you are a teacher, mystic?
I think I'm just a small particle under Kali's feet. That is my guru, Shiv and Kali, and of course my guru also.
Right.
Very practically speaking.
Fair.
Of course, I'm in the body. When I talk to you, okay, Bhavesh is talking. I can't talk like, oh, Kali is talking. People will throw me out. But internally, yes, that awareness is there.
You are just a small particle.
Just an instrument in her hands.
In Kali's hand. And
whatever she wants, she'll do.
Is there a purpose to this instrument in Kali's hand?
An instrument has no purpose, no. The duty of the instrument is to be fit, fine, active, and be at service.
Right. Whatever Kali might require.
So my duty is to look after my body, be aware, do what she wants.
And that's about it.
She does everything. My dear, who's rising the sun? Who's setting the moon? The sun and the moon never set or rise.
Right.
But it is happening in this Maya, no?
Right.
Earth is rotating, no? So there's one energy. If you understand the flow of that energy, and if you surrender completely, you will realize that life is beautiful, everything is taken care of. Your smallest needs are taken care of. At the same time, what is not required is blocked by that energy only. So you call it Shiv, you call it Shakti, you call it Kali, you call it consciousness, you call it anything.
Right. Is there a philosophy you have? Is there a intellectual thought you subscribe to? What is your method? Let me put it like that.
My method of worship. Good question. If you ask me, as my guru says, that I'm a mixture of Vedanta and Tantra. So I follow the philosophy, and in fact, on the spiritual path, everyone follows this philosophy that we come from the same source. But the worship may be different. Someone is into bhakti, someone is into gyan, someone is into kap. So I think I'm a mixture of worshipping the gods also, understanding that they are formless. That is my method. And of course, I think when you evolve on the path, you realize that no matter what path you take, all are connected. They all play an equal role.
Explain to me this path choosing. How does one choose a path, or does the path choose you? Like, how does this play out?
There are many things. The path is actually determined based on your past sanskaras and karmas, the past impressions that you're holding.
Right.
Secondly, I think the first step of the path is to understand what makes you happy. More than jumping into understand what is giving you peace of mind. So basic, whenever someone is walking on the path or getting into this without a guru or without having, start with asana, pranayam, ashtanga, or 8 limbs. Work on that nicely, then automatically it will unfold. And the desire to know the unknown should be there. And if you realize you talk to great saints or anyone, the first thing is the curiosity. And it hits everyone.
Everyone's curious.
Everyone's curious. Hey, kya ho raha hai? Main aisa kyun hu? What will happen after? These are all basic questions. That's everyone. That means already, since you're born, you're walking on the path.
I think that's in fact very profound. Coming from a psychological, philosophical point of view on this, Hume famously said, all addictions are low-level searches for God.
True.
Right? And if you look at anything for that matter, men desiring physical connection, females desiring emotional connection, people desiring substance, people desiring success, glory, fame, all of these are imaginations of self-transcendence, that I will be beyond me once I have this. I will cease to be imprisoned by myself. And so we keep chasing them to realize this is not it, this is not it, this is not it. And Neti unfolds like this in your life.
Beautiful. That is, we practice every day Neti. In fact, I talk about Neti. It's mentioned in the Upanishad also very clearly. Now, when you think, suppose if you are running behind a car, yeah, you run, you get a very fancy car, you get one of the top models or whatever. But nature is very amazing. Till the time you get to, there'll be 10,000 models out there. Then again, you want more. The mind is like this.
Yeah.
We call it the monkey mind.
Right.
The mad monkey mind who's drunk all the time.
Right.
It never gets satisfied.
No.
So what I believe and understand is, when the mind is under control, he's a best friend. When he is not, it's your worst enemy.
Right.
Worse than any relationship, worse than any problem, because constantly it will just drag you into everything.
Right.
So
even the mechanism of this wanting more, one can experience this. So suppose somebody's like, I want 2 lakh rupees monthly salary, then I will be happy. You will probably for 6 months, then you'll start comparing yourself to everybody else who has 2 lakhs and then some more. And then you want that. And it keeps sort of keeping you loop. Like, I wonder what happens between 20 and 60 in a person's life. And it seems like this is what happens. Many loops, same roller coaster.
This is the main teaching, when we talk about dharma and arth, the 2 goals of life. It's all our needs are taken care of, never a greed. We humans are so greedy. We want to take. If you realize and look at the world, the small ant is also taken care. Even to this big bird or sun or everything that is happening. But we just want. And I've seen people wanting also, and after that they're not satisfied because mentally they're messed up completely.
Why do you think people don't realize that this wanting is not going to cease? Why do you think I don't realize? Forget the word. Me, Prakhar, take subject matter one. Because I want.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier, I have material aspiration.
Yeah.
I try to stay at best playing this game, enjoying this game.
Yeah.
I even tell myself actively when the game's not going my way, material game, I enjoy this.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow when it will, I'll be like, oh bro, this was such a bad time now. You have this. Why don't I, Himanshu, the rest of us realize that this is not going to solve it?
You tell me, how long you want to play the game?
Until I'm bored. I think boredom is a divine signal.
How about after that, what?
Something else.
See, every game has a rule, right? If I ask you if you're playing football, one person can run behind the ball, but there are 12 people running behind the ball for no reason. Because that is the rule of the game. If you're talking about the game of life, have you understood the rules and regulations of the game of life, you'll never get bored. Because you will master life. You become a victim of life. I'm bored, I don't know what to do, abhi aur kaise kick milega, I'll find something else. You're not understanding the game. And that game will bind you to karma. And who will have to pay? You will have to pay. But if you have understood the game of life, you have understood how the rules of life, how nature works, and that is the beauty of human birth.
Tell me about these rules and regulations. It's a very interesting phrase.
There are no rules as such. The rules are like, of course, there's law of karma.
Sure.
That is one rule.
Explain to me because I want to understand your grammar.
We talk about the 4 goals of life. If you have taken a human body, there are 4 goals of life. I'm sure you might be aware about it.
No.
That is dharma, arth, kam and moksha. Yeah. The end goal of life is moksha. Now, I'm not talking about moksha because in different schools, Buddhism moksha is different, Patanjali moksha is different, Vedanta moksha, so leave it aside. Dharma is something very interesting that our generation needs very bad. If you understand how dharma works, dharma is not a religion, by the way. It is the law of cosmic nature. We call it the law of righteousness. And there are 4 important points. If you understand in this game, automatically you start evolving. One is you should give your best in every situation. And that is in your hands.
That is,
for example, I'm talking to you now. I'm giving my best.
Agreed.
Output kya aayega? What will you think about me later? I don't care. None of my business. If I make that my business, I'm binded into the law of karma. So giving my best. Second is anywhere you are placed, 100%. Third is no judgment to anyone and anyone. And fourth is no expectation. If you are implying these, of course the rules get higher when you evolve. But basic person who's walking on the path. 100% in any situation. Matlab being there. Matlab I'm sitting here and thinking, oh no, what I'm going to do in Rishikesh tomorrow, out. Oh, I'm going to Hyderabad, you're out. Secondly, 100% means you're there, talking also with the person, eye to eye, understanding and building that. Third is no judgment. And third is no expectation, means no fruits demanded in return.
Fair. This is very much like what Krishna is saying to Arjun.
Of course, this is practical. This is that very, very practical. Yes, very, very practical. But to apply it is very difficult.
Yes, very difficult.
Very, very difficult.
Yeah. Something comes and just takes you.
Yeah.
Right.
That you understand. In fact, when you start understanding this, the cosmic law will start supporting you.
I have heard of this. I don't understand this, but I have heard of this.
So when I start understanding and I'm going, we call it the flow, you call it everything. Nature will start supporting you. The doors will start opening. You'll start getting help because you're walking with the current. If Ganga is flowing and I keep a rock, I become the rock, I'll just going to damage myself. But if I flow, I will meet the end path. But that awareness should be there. And that will only come when you do sadhana. Now people talk about material also, that is earth, calm. Calm is desires, earth is money. Earn money, there is no problem. Yeah. Make money, do everything, but keeping dharma in mind.
Right.
And the end goal is moksha.
Right.
So you'll never get bored.
Right.
Because I know my goal is to not come back in this world again. Or even if I come back, not to be affected. That is the reason moksha changes. So practically, if I put it, you just have to be a good human being first, rather than anything else.
Right.
Be nice, mind your own business, do your own thing. And your most intense competition that you're going through is with your own self, not with others. That is what I believe firmly. I want to upgrade myself. If my sadhana is from A to B, I want to take it to A to Z. I don't care what you are doing. I don't care what he is doing. I want to evolve. That attitude is very important.
Sorry. Whatever. I think it's some days I wonder. Right? I'll tell you what. I have a friend who is a type A, very ambitious, very driven type of person. And funnily enough, he gets what he wants. He'll take its time, but he'll get what he wants. Yeah. Now, for him in the experience, what he feels in first person is, I'm trying, and I get it. And then a new search begins, whatever.
Yeah.
Me, who sees him intermittently, I see him after 8 months, he's gotten what he wants, and I'm like, oh, you were always going to get it. And then when he tells me about the struggle, I'm like, a lot of this seems psychological. That while you were going through it, you're having these conflicts in your head, maybe this, maybe that. And in due time, you got what you wanted anyway. Maybe just drop the psychological conflict. Maybe just stop fighting internally. Maybe just dance with it and get to where you're trying to get to. He says, if I don't have that conflict, then I will not get what I want. I tell him, because you have that conflict, you think getting what you want is harder than what it is. Because what are you feeding your system? Ki main jab tak ladunga nahi, until I fight, until I wrestle with reality, it doesn't appear. So when you get it, you feel like it's a consequence of wrestling with reality. Now, I don't know what school of thought is right. What do you think?
My point of view is thoda different on this. See, your school is right where you think that just flow, semi-flow or flow, whatever you call it. Right. My thing is, if I want this glass of water, it is my duty to give my best and work towards it. Hua to theek, nahi hua to bhi theek. That means I'm free mentally.
Right. I get it.
If I get it, I cherish it. With that awareness, that is also temporary. If I don't get it, I know that there is something better and I will get what I deserve. On the spot, you're free of everything. You're relaxed. That person that you're talking is mentally so messed up because he's not enjoying life.
Right.
In this situation also, I'm enjoying that beautiful sunrise. I'm watching Ma Ganga. I'm enjoying talking to you.
Right. Fair.
And what can you do? You think you are in control? Your duty is only one thing, to give your best in every situation. So maybe as a wife, as a husband, as a brother, as a sister, as anything that you take. Right. That is my belief. And it is not my belief. In fact, it is in Gita. It is in every text.
It seems like it's everywhere. I think even when you said I participate in the world, I think there is a
Gita. It's Gita only.
Gita. There's also in the Bible something very literal about it. Be of the world, but not part of the world, or something like this. There's a whole biblical quote. So like this is a very understood spiritual part.
Very simple.
Yeah, right.
Now if I jump into Tantra and all, then things change. Then Tantra you have to worship according to your svabhava, your behavior. So they're different. The beauty of Sanatan is so clear that depending upon your behavior, you worship God. There is no one way.
Yes.
There is no one way.
It's a university level education. Yeah.
If you like your curiosity, you do Vedanta, you enjoy it, you'll reach God your way. If I like to do worship, I like deities, I'm into Tantra, is my way. If my sister likes to work, karma yogi, serve, everything is one, that is her way. Everyone has their own ways now. No hard and fast rule that if you don't take this, you'll be punished.
Right.
Doesn't work like this.
So Vedanta is the same as Advaita Vedanta? Or?
Advaita Vedanta, yeah.
Right, which is non-duality.
That is the highest teaching. Actually, it is a teaching that is required to get in day-to-day life. To have a good state of mind and to operate.
Explain that teaching.
Also with Vedanta, I'll explain one more thing. Vedanta is very dangerous also. Because then you don't participate in the game of life. You think that everything is Maya, I am Brahman, and then you just become lethargic and again you come into tamas.
Yeah, you said a lot of words.
Yeah,
I want to
sorry,
understand
I'm
your
just
grammar.
flowing,
No, I completely understand. My serious question is, what is Advaita Vedanta? What is Tamas, Rajas, Sattva?
Okay, this Advaita Vedanta is a topic which I can talk about years and years, but let's make it simple. Advaita Vedanta. Advaita means non-duality. Okay, there are many schools in Vedanta also, but I'm just talking about Advaita because I think that is what people need to practically apply in life. School of non-duality. Vedanta is the end of Vedas, which is Upanishad. So when you read, nowadays it is impossible to read Ved. So I would recommend read the Upanishad, start with base to get into knowledge, textual knowledge and everything. Now, how does Advaita Vedanta work? Have you heard about Einstein? I'm sure you have. Yeah. What he said something very interesting, that everything is relative, nothing is absolute. That means in simple language, on its own, nothing has value. It is interdependent to have value.
Sure.
So ये value से पानी पी रहा हूँ. But what Vedanta says, only the absolute is reality. Rest everything is Maya. That means एक source है. If you understand that source, you will understand the entire consciousness, entire world and everything. For example, let me get it more practical. I'm sure you're aware that the world that you see is upside down, right?
Oh, because of the light reflection. Sure.
Yeah, the brain flips it.
Sure.
Yeah. The Rishi is saying it is Maya.
Isn't it true that the first image in my eye is upside down and then the brain flips it, but the world is straight?
Yeah, but it is Maya only, no?
Sure.
Yeah.
I understand the metaphor. I understand the metaphor.
Yeah, it is Maya only.
Yeah.
So the Rishis are saying that I will just talk about it and I'm asking you only as if you're sitting, I'm trying to explain Vedanta. I'm asking you a question. What is constant in your life?
Nothing.
At the most.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it is me who is looking, I think nothing else is constant.
Just 2 minutes you said that past has changed completely. Your body is changing completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is changing.
Then what are you running behind? Then what you said, 5 saal mein I'll get bored. If you know it yourself is not constant, then why are you running behind it? You'll never be satisfied.
Sure.
Because the human mind is always craving for a constant flow of ecstasy.
Right.
Which is the highest state, and that is your birthright. You think that Prakhar, you're doing this podcast or traveling the world or meeting Bhavesh is your goal? No. Something you'll crave more. That is, the Rishis decoded long time ago. Then again, they went to a very simple question that if you say that you're the body and this time is existing, is this world a reality? So they came up with a second question. I'm making the Upanishad Vedanta very simple. So they're asking what is reality? Because many people ask us or ask you, I'm touching you, aap to real ho. Or I'm awake now, everything is real. So the answer is very simple. They are saying the 3 states of consciousness that every human being goes through. The first is the awake state. I'm awake now. But they have also answered this beautifully. Reality is that which never changes. This is what modern science is not able to crack it now. Reality is that which never changes. That means if I say I'm awake, till I die I should be awake. It is not possible I'm going to sleep. Second is a dream state. In your dream, you get multiple dreams. That is also changing. And deep sleep is something, if you go in deep sleep, you lose awareness. That is tamas actually. So reality is what which never changes. So how they answer this is beautifully. Is saying there's only one reality, that is pure consciousness. Usse puri dunya bhar rahi hai. If you tap into that, or if you experience that, what is changing is Maya.
Fair.
So that is Advaita Vedanta in a nutshell. Of course, it goes in detail, but itna touch karenge to it will be too much.
I see. Have you ever encountered somebody who is at that level?
Yes.
Many?
Not many. Constantly operating in that state, very few.
Very few.
Very few.
Are they markedly different from other humans?
Oh, yeah.
How?
They don't care. They don't care. They're not like us who want to come talk about it. Of course, their roles are also differently placed, but yeah, there are people now also, I believe.
Are they more common than we might think?
They're very common. They are very common. In fact, you don't realize. We met a great saint who was lying on the floor. We were in Srisailam and sitting and like literally, I should not say this, but literally begging. But when we went to him and he started speaking, it was something.
How do you know what is the symptom?
I think the more spiritually evolved, you come to know who's genuine and who's not.
Sure, genuineness is one thing, but in reaching that state is another.
You come to know. I think sadhana tells you come to know. And there's more than that also, that how much you have worked on yourself to understand them. Genuine people are there. In fact, great rishis like Ramana Maharishi, Thakurji, they were all in that state.
I'll give you a primitive, more proximate example. I have always felt, and it might sound biased, it is not. I have always felt my mother is very special in this way, because in 30 years of being around her, I have never seen her heavy in her energy. Speaking in a very vague language here. And what I effectively mean is almost nothing traps her.
Then she's free.
And I keep saying this privately, never to her directly. I think she's not many lifetimes away.
Yeah.
And it's very distinctly unique from other people in her family. I think very distinctly unique from other people in my family. It's very unique about her. And it's just an instinct I have. I may be completely, like this should be a private grammar, whatever. But there's something I can sense there. That made me wonder if there has to be more people walking around normal consciousness that are much more...
more than... Sorry, I'm cutting you.
Please,
more than that, I believe, no. You might be a great saint. I will not come to know. Because at that state of consciousness, you can pretend you become very good actors. But only staying with the person, you will come to know how deep are they enlightened or in higher states, or how they are pretentious. That you come, and people are not stupid. People come to know. Everyone has you picked up. You have that instinct. You're staying with her. You have seen her. You have studied her.
Very rarely have I found somebody who's just light.
Yeah. Like when we live with our guru, she is amazing. Like she is 86 now. And she's just amazing. Never have seen her, losing balance. Any point of worst of the worst scenarios. And even when she is angry, it is an act to teach me something.
Anger as a tool, as opposed to anger as a state.
Yeah, but inside, I'm sure she's just laughing and all. Why? Because the next second she's okay. Nothing has happened.
You're so spot on. I've had to learn this, which is, see, if you're doing things and your anger is but natural, how are you not angry after you're done with anger? Such an important trait. Because you could hang up the phone and laugh.
Yeah. And I've seen it doing her. Because I've stayed with her for so many days, and she's cutthroat. If you are wrong, she'll make you realize. And once you have learned the lesson, she is like nothing has happened. But you can't be normal. Because again, the mind is playing games. So that shows that there are people who are very... And love, joy, or being, very kadak if required, that is the experience of their sadhana, and that is their tap. So it is not just reading the books or intellectually, they have experienced it. And I think that the source of unconditional love, there is no judgment.
Fair.
No judgment about it. If someone is doing wrong, okay, let them do, poor thing doing wrong, let them come out. But the lessons are given. I think that is the role of a guru also. They play multiple and very difficult to decode them. Very difficult. They are different situations.
How is it that you led yourself into this situation, or how does life led you here into this situation? Because see, I'm curious. I'm using myself as patient just so that it's easier. And at a certain point, I swear to God, I've had an instinct. I maybe need a guru, right? But one, I thought if I need a guru, the guru will appear, right? Like if I'm ready for it, it should automatically sort of begin to happen. I don't know where to go search for one. It's a very unique thing that you ended up with a guru because a curiosity emerged from you. Tell me a little bit about that.
I think meeting the guru in this life is, I'm not that capable. It is a past sanskaras, of course, you know it. But the thirst should be there to know the unknown. How you're passionate about it. Like, I want to crack this. I want to go. That it. So I think getting a guru is not that easy. In fact, the guru knows it. A very highly evolved guru, enlightened guru knows it. Everything about the disciple. Then constant connection. But the disciple should be ready. And in fact, it is not that one day job guru aa jaye, it will not come like this. They will test you, they will grind you. But an enlightened guru is that guru will tell you that I'm not your guru is inside you. If you have met such a person who's unconditionally loving you, not expecting anything, and making you realize that you are that truth, that is a guru.
What do you think of somebody like a J. Krishnamurti in that way?
Oh, he was a fabulous man. What intellect he had.
Yeah.
What intellect.
He wasn't dealing with deities as metaphor.
He has different philosophies, no?
Yeah.
See, different ways, different path of understanding.
But Advaita Vedanta, regardless.
Yeah, definitely.
Not
And
this,
in
not that.
fact, his talks are very difficult for people to understand also.
Yeah.
Like Sri Aurobindo, people don't understand what he's talking, but if you know and have experienced, then you can crack it. He was a great narrator. I'm sure he had some great experiences.
And you think he was in the state? Is there conversation about it in your circles?
Very. We have conversations about what he writes, how he decodes, but I think to talk about without staying with him is very difficult.
Very difficult.
Very difficult. I personally believe.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've stayed with my guru. I've stayed with many gurus. I know about them. At the same time, I met people also. We know that they are not there. But you come to know. You come to know.
So I understand Advaita Vedanta as, and this is my understanding from speaking with somebody like an Acharya Prashant for that matter and such. Advaita Vedanta is fairly intellectual. You can neti your way to that point. Not this, it's not that. And I mean, this is what I suggest people. Okay? I had this insight maybe a couple of years ago that we do things in this life form to be done with them.
True.
And I say this to people and it's not instinctive or intuitive to them. I say, for instance, as a comical example, a 14-year-old boy, when he looks at his peers and say they have facial hair, you really want facial hair. It's a very common male thing where like you run a razor ki daadi aa jaye.
Yeah.
Once it happens, you don't care about it.
Yeah.
The first time somebody is going to have physical intimacy, before that there's a lot of anticipation.
Yeah.
And if you look at a 45-year-old man, maybe there's no physical intimacy in his life and he just does not care. And so the first Mercedes is one of those examples for like luxury. I want to have my first luxury car once it happens. And so you keep doing these things to eventually realize it's not this, it's not that. None of these actually serve a purpose. You keep moving towards a transcendent place and hopefully you arrive. That's Advaita Vedanta, I understand.
That is, human birth is full of experiences, no?
Yes. And each experience reveals itself as nothing.
No, each experience will either evolve you or bind you.
Explain this to me, this binding thing.
So that means now you said my first experience of getting a mark. Okay. You are talking based on some experience. Okay. Now you're happy with it. But there's someone like you after Merck wants a
Beamer or whatever.
It's binding him.
Right.
So every experience will either bind you or liberate you. It's very subjective.
Very interesting.
And depends upon individuals.
Very interesting.
Don't you think?
So
for example, now you're telling me that intimacy ho raha hai. Someone had an experience, someone is binded, it will do again. But someone is like, no, ho gaya, mujhe life mein kuch aur karna hai. So this is the beauty of human birth,
That's super interesting. Because my point of view on this was, it's done. Like for instance, fame, it appears very quickly in my profession.
Yeah. Accepted. Now you're saying you're done.
I'm like, whatever, fame, right? Like, okay.
But someone like you
may want
more.
I think
and
teaching,
uske baad he wants to do more, she wants to do more, but you're done. But then you'll go for something else.
Money.
So that means means you're evolving.
Right.
So coming at the peak, then you think, okay, chalo, मैंने 4 घर ले लिया. नहीं, but मुझे भी island लेना है. So you're in that rat race. But you said, no, मैंने 4 घर ले लिया, but now I want to do something else. So that experience will either evolve you or bind you. That is completely very subjective,
very
no?
Interesting. I just always assumed that the natural progression would be towards letting go.
That is only in your case.
It might be, or I might be just blindsided to my own insufficiencies also.
Yes,
I'm very, I understand that. Very good. This is Advaita Vedanta. And you said you're a mix between Advaita Vedanta and Tantra.
Tantra is something, see nowadays whenever I've heard about Tantra, people are thinking that Tantra is Kala Jadoo, it is that, people won't know, Tantra is not like this. In fact, it is a higher science. When you understand Tantra, talks about in simple language, not going in technical terms. It is expansion of consciousness. It makes you realize that you're beyond this body, mind and intellect, which leads to Vedanta only.
Eventually it gets to the same point.
Everything eventually will come to. Bhagavad Gita, the first 3 chapters, Vedanta. Tantra, the last experience that the Devta becomes one and you become omniscient, omnipresent, that is Vedanta. You take Karma Yogi, Vedanta. Everything is Bhakti is Vedanta. Everything comes there. But the paths are different. For a Tantra path, getting in very simple language, they have defined 3 behaviors. A person who's sattvic, I'm sure you know what sattvic is.
You just do me a favor and explain regardless. I want to understand your worldview.
Okay, so I'm putting it very simple for a person who's new to Tantra.
Sure.
Not getting into Devtas or getting into that ritualistic part, which was very hectic. Tantra has 3 simple factors. If you understand Tantra, there are 3 kinds of disciples or people who are worshipping in Tantra. One is the sattvic bhav, who is intellectually strong, does all sattva. One is Rajasic, who's already running. And one is Tamasic, who's very lethargic and lazy. So in Tantra, there are different methods given that they all go beyond Sattva, Raja and Tama and experience the formless.
So a Sattva would be given a method that takes him beyond Sattva and beyond Rajas, Tamas also. So
Yes. Same like Bhagavad Gita.
Sure.
Tattva Prajna, same like when it comes to. So Tantra is very simple, but when you go dwell into deeper aspects of Tantra, Tantra is Yantra, Mantra, Tantra. Yantra is the form, mantra is the sound, yantra, mantra, tantra is the final end, meeting of everything. So when I say prakhar is the mantra. For example, you are the form. And when it comes to the conclusion, it is tantra, taking everything above. So in that we have mudras, we have to do a lot of sadhana, worship gods. There's a different way. So every path has different ways. So I don't know where people are getting worried about Tantra, but it's very simple. In fact, any puja you do, even offering coconut is Tantra. Any worship that you do is Tantra. But depends. Is it right hand or left hand? Now going into a bit detail.
Sure.
The right hand sadhaks are all sattvic people. The left hand is sadhak, but the sadhak change we add meat, alcohol. So depending upon your sabhava, you worship God. Because in Sanatan, there is no hell or heaven. Hell or heaven is in our mind. Simple.
So you're saying that Tantra is effectively this self-transcendent aspect that emerges from expanding your consciousness.
Yes, the goal is to expand our consciousness.
What does expanding your consciousness mean, and how does one do that?
So, okay, what I explained previously about Tantra was just not even like taking you to the candy shop and all, just showing you outside. Expanding the consciousness, simple term, is that making you realize that you're beyond this Panchamahabhutas.
The 5 senses.
The Panchamahabhutas are earth, fire, water,
5
space.
elements.
Yeah, 5 elements.
Okay.
We think we are this body. We are not. Then making you realize that you're beyond the senses also. We have 11 senses. We are beyond that also. And making you realize that only in the human body you can experience that essence, which is greater than sex, greater than food, greater than sleep, and greater than jealousy, anxiety, fear. So in Tantra it is said, a person who's capable of not getting entangled between food, sleep, sex, and fear is capable of doing higher sadhana. So these are the 4 things that we have to first be aware and move ahead of it.
At some point, I think I came across some texts in Buddhist Tantra, which I'm assuming would be very different from Hindu Tantra.
When you talk about Vigyan Bhairav Tantra or Buddhist Tantra, they are similar, but the forms and the worship is a bit different.
Right. And it spoke of something called the higher method and the lower method, the Mahayana.
Hinayana, Mahayana. Yes.
And the descriptions in the texts I was reading were very radical. So I think, if I remember correctly, it said something about how the Tantric Buddhism is a highway to enlightenment as opposed to your regular stuff, which is, it'll take its lifetimes. And you have to do very revolutionary things like maybe eat fecal matter, and there were suggestions of this nature that I didn't completely understand or could make sense of. Is that, am I remembering correctly or no?
You're talking in a right way, but even in Tantra, as we dwell into deeper aspects, there are different paths also given where depending upon your sabhava, you take the path. Like a path of an Aghori or a path of a person living in Smashan or many ways. In that, imagine a state, let me be very, very simple. Imagine there's a state where you're not affected by anything in the world. Maybe fecal matter, maybe diamond, maybe having anything from the dustbin, because you have come into a realization that everything is Divine Mother. If you are into that state, you have become a Siddha. So there are methods also taken there.
Acha. Yeah. So those methods exist for a certain swabhava.
Not for everyone. Not for everyone.
But I feel like it's very hard for somebody to self-decipher. Or like, I think a guru is then very required in something of this nature.
Definitely.
Because who's going to reflect and tell me what?
So, we call Tantra, I tell this all the time because I personally believe that Tantra is walking on the razor's edge. You are walking on the razor's edge. One side is the valley of ego and other side is the valley of desires. But the razor's edge is a shortcut. So that shortcut to cross, you need a guru. Otherwise, you will be messed up completely.
Have you seen people messed up from this kind of stuff?
I have met few people, yes.
Yeah.
They they get mental hallucinations, they start getting, they get messed up. That is the reason the guru takes you back to reality, saying that no, don't get entangled. Your goal is going beyond the consciousness also. This limited.
Yeah, because I've read a lot of these people who will have clear symptoms of psychosis talk about how their kundalini is messed up also. And that's a very common internet trope. If you go to r/kundalini or whatever, you'll find a lot of these people. And I wonder what's happening there.
See, I don't know people talk about Kundalini very, very, very vaguely.
Casually.
Kundalini awakening is not for everyone. Once you're Kundalini awakened, you're not the same.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
To be honest, I run away from such topics because these topics are so beautiful, so experiential, and nowadays people have just destroyed it.
They've made it snacks.
They have made it snacks, and I think anyone, Tom, Dick and Harry goes, any Tom, Dick and Harry goes that I can awaken your Kundalini or third eye chakra, it doesn't work like this. It doesn't work like this. In fact, great gurus, they all had Kundalini awakened. All of them, I'm sure. In their own methods. So, no matter what path you take, Kundalini awakened to hona hi hai. You take bhakti, you take karma. But if you talk from a Vedantic point of view, Kundalini is Maya. Kundalini doesn't exist. Everything is Maya. So, depending upon your sabhava, again, sadhana should be done.
Interesting. Explain to me this idea of Aghoris also, because I think during the Mahakumbh, this sort of picked up a little. And like, it's very hard to explain somebody who's not native to this land what Aghoris are.
You know, we were very fortunate to live with the Aghoris and the Nagas in the Kumbh this time. And they're very gentle people. They're doing their own thing. So I don't know why there is so much misconception that the Nagas are like this, the Aghoris are like this. I think they're very happy in their own world. They don't want actual Aghori. Huh? They don't want name, they don't want fame. In fact, I met a great Aghori who was very well spoken in English, traveled the world, seen everything, and then took the path. I used to live in a kapal. And his English was fabulous. His experiences were fabulous. But you would not realize, very simple man.
How is an Aghori different in their swabhava or...
An Aghori, there's a very beautiful phrase, no? What is day for a normal being is a night for a Aghori. And what is night for people like us is day for Aghori. Because their sadhana starts in the night. An actual Aghori will never leave the cremation ground. His home is that. He will die, live, eat, everything there only. And then if he wants to go to another cremation ground, he'll move in the night only. And no publicity, nothing. They don't want anything.
What is the rationale?
That is their sabhava. That is their sadhana. That is their journey. In fact, we met a very interesting Aghor Baba in Kashi also. Very well spoken, very simple. And he just said love is everything. Unconditional love without judgment. You see Divine Mother everywhere and everything. Are you in that state? He asked. I said, I'm praying that one day we get there. He just started laughing.
Why?
Because he said, you're walking on the path, don't lie to me. So they are aware. And they're very simple. And what they show on TV, what Aghor is just,
It's a dramatized
way.
Yeah, right.
It's a dramatized way. Of course, their practices are intense. In fact, in Aghor, there are practices where you go in the smashan and you're in a certain stage of evolution where you have to walk and not look behind. So there are practices with the deal, but the guru is very important. So I think these things should be left only under the guru and the shishya. And it is not meant for us.
They walk through fire?
They walk through fire. No, they walk through the Smashan Ghat and there are entities that call you and all. Jo bhi hai. But it is said that it is meant full of esoteric, what needs to be done. And you know, even in Smashan, they do sadhana, many, many things. In fact, there's a very beautiful story of an Aghor where he was a great enlightened being. I can't recollect his name, but he was a Siddha, born enlightened man. He goes to a Smashan to do sadhana. And then there is this so-called entity. It's a story. Not reality, but make us realize. So there's one entity that comes and tells him, what do you want? I'll give you everything that you want. Everything. Tell me what you want. You want name, you want fame, you want power. What do you want? He's sitting. He said, please don't bother me. Let me meditate. I'm here for my sadhana. Again, next day he goes in the night. She comes to him. Tell me what do you want? I will do this. I will take you to the top of the world. This happens for a month. Then that great Siddha is tired and he says, you know what? I have hepatitis on my right leg. Move it to my left leg. Free. I don't want to get entangled. That is the state of an evolved being.
That's a funny story.
Yeah. So when you go into Aghor and you have a right guru, the guru will make you realize you may get supernatural powers, you may get name, you may get fame. You don't want that. You want is the essence of God.
I was recently in an interview where I was the guest and they were talking to me about love and they were talking to me about forms of love that men have as opposed to forms of love that females might have. And it kind of felt like this could enter a tricky territory for public conversation. And I was trying to explain to them, I said something along the lines of, if you want to see the way a man loves, watch him weep his beloved at the funeral, at the cremation ground, right? It's a genuine experience. Two of my close friends, they're twins. They lost their father recently. I woke up one day, I got a text, this is like last week. Boys lost their father, come to the cremation ground. And I was standing there, and it's a surreal experience. It's a surreal experience being at a cremation ground. You watch 60 plus years of memories being burned down by the children of the person who's passed for the purpose of making their memories immortal. It's a very weird thing. You watch them cry, but you also watch them relieve themselves. It's a range of emotions. It's you getting perspective on your own life. You realizing how quick and fast and meaningless all of this is if you don't wake up. And I think one of the best ways to enter into spirituality is to spend a day in a Shamshan Ghat.
Yeah, true. That is what the first teaching of Aghori is. When he met the Aghori, he said, if you think you're so smart, come to the Smashan and see. You will see that nothing is permanent. In fact, my guru, whenever I used to get up and down in my sadhana, she used to tell me, Bhavesh, whenever you go to a Smashan, you forget everything. But the problem is when you come out, you forget the Smashan. And again, you get entangled.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And who's a person who's always in balance. He enjoys everything. But at the same time, he knows everything is temporary. That is a very highly evolved being, according to me.
There was a very interesting experience in my last Vipassana. It was a very painful one. I think much more painful than I was ready for, or like beyond, when I came out and people were like, how was it? I was like, if I tell you, you won't go.
Yeah.
So don't ask me. But it was an experience after 7-8 days of intense agony. One day, something burst open, Bhavesh.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. It's the afternoon walk. I'm having it, and suddenly pure ecstasy just flowing through me. Every step I took, boom, just blasting into happiness. And when I think of my family, just pure pleasure emerges. When I think of all my work or like my friends or like anything I thought of, is just pure pleasure, right? And in that, I'm aware that this is going to pass. And I was like, what a strength to have built up that I'm experiencing such joy, but completely aware it's maybe 20 minutes or 2 hours or 2 days at best.
Imagine maintaining that state and consciously being in that state.
Brother, it's
What
so
an experience.
difficult to explain because I would touch a leaf and I was like, what? This is so beautiful. And it's so different from my normal waking consciousness.
Of
I
course.
can't explain it to somebody.
You can't.
I can't even go back at choice.
It is not meant to be explained. It is only between you and the experience.
Right.
That is the beauty, because words can't get it down. And I think it is the birthright that we have to stay in that consciousness. At least I think everyone gets it, But
I think at some point, yes.
We are unaware.
I think it's more prominent when you're a kid to feel that way.
Definitely.
And it just fades over a period of time. I think it was Sadhguru who mentioned to me about, or it was Satya, I'm not sure which one, said living by memory and living by experience is two different modalities.
Definitely.
What happens is you grow up and all this is memory. So your drive back home is shorter because it's all memory. You don't experience the road anymore the way you used to.
And more than that, the older you get, the concept of time changes drastically.
Yeah, it becomes shorter.
Of
You've
course.
psychologically lived half your life by the age of 24.
Of course.
How old are you? 24. Yeah, your half of your life is done with, bro. Can you believe it? It is such a shocking fact that by 24, half your memories are already made.
That is the reason. No, in one birth, we are living multiple lives.
You said that earlier. Explain it for me.
We were talking earlier. You said childhood was different, now it is different. And with time, you don't even realize how you were 10 years ago.
Yeah, right.
And I believe every day we are changing. Every day we are evolving. Again, it is very subjective. Either you evolve or you get in the trap, is up to you. And I think when you experience such higher states of consciousness, you don't need anything. Then food, sex, drugs, nothing matters, because you have tasted the nectar of life. And you want to be in that state, you can't get there because you don't have knowledge.
Fair.
So knowledge is very important.
Right.
And
Have you experienced something like this?
I am nothing to experience anything.
No, but temporarily, have you experienced like a state of ecstasy or bliss?
Beautiful states.
Yeah?
Beautiful states.
What does that make sense?
No, it's very dangerous, because so much ego and pride, I think it is his.
Yeah, it is not mine. I didn't produce it by any way.
And I think everyone experiences it. Everyone. And once you get that state or that kick or that taste, You know, beautiful saying, no, after tasting honey whole, enjoy white sugar.
Fair.
Yeah.
Right.
That is the state.
Do you generally answer a question like, what is a good death?
I think we die before dying.
What do you mean?
That means there is so much fear of loss in our head. As we grow older, we are already dying every day.
I think nobody ever told me that with growing older, what will emerge that did not previously exist is my past. Yeah. Because when you're a kid, there is no past. Yeah. There's no yearning for the way things were.
Yeah.
There's no nostalgia that consumes your mind.
True.
But suddenly one day you're old enough to have nostalgia.
True.
And you wish for that as much as you wish for this, the future and the past.
Yeah.
For a long time, the only struggle in my life was my future. Now I also deal with my past.
Yep. And at the same time, again, your future.
And again, my future, and then
Definitely.
my past, and it keeps moving like this. And there's a very famous line from Rang De Basanti, Ek pair, future.
Yeah,
ek pair. Like it ends up being like this.
You know, if you ask me about death, it's a personal thing. I think every night when I go to sleep, I just pray. Because I don't know next morning if I'll wake up or not. So I think we die every night.
Sure.
Because I don't know what tomorrow is holding.
Right.
At the same time, I think death is something which is never in our hands. But if I know that I'm not this body and this is all Maya, then death alive doesn't matter.
Sure, but I mean, would it really not if I brought a knife near you? Would you not like flinch and be like, oh, what are you doing? Like if I pulled a knife right now.
See, human instincts will come.
Yeah.
But if I'm supposed to survive, I'll survive. I mean,
I've said this often,
Yeah.
and I've spoken about this with almost all spiritual conversations I do, because here's my antithesis, okay? And this is my lesson from the limited spiritual history I've read. That you tell me, you're a enlightened person, you put together a bunch of people around you who learn from you. This is the way history has worked. Jesus did this, Buddha did this, great rishis have taught people when they came to them. Eventually what happens is the in-group comes in conflict with the out-group. Somebody says, not you. And then, there is conflict, and even your most spiritual self does not survive a political conflict. Because if somebody picks up a knife, you have to defend yourself. You can't answer material threat with spiritual power.
No. See, first thing is, there are two aspects to it. I'll give you another example which will connect to this. I know someone very strange, somewhere only. He tried to do suicide. 3 बार उन्होंने खुदा, कुछ नहीं हुआ. Still moving, still at it, everything at it.
Right.
हड्डी भी नहीं टूटा.
Achha.
And he wanted to die.
Interesting.
Now, how is that possible if I ask you?
I mean,
He wanted to die.
Yeah, he wanted to.
He did many things.
Maybe
he had rat poison also.
Maybe he's incompetent.
He had rat poison also. And survived. How do you justify this? The desires to die, but वो बचे जा रहे, then he gave up. And now he's doing very good in life. And he's very grateful that that didn't happen. What I infer is there is some karmic bond. And no one can run against that. If your time of death has come, you will die anyhow. Heart attack se bhi. And if that time of death has come by you stabbing me, it is going to come.
Right.
I may be an enlightened being, I may be a stupid man, I may be a dumb man, I'm going to die. This is my understanding. But if my time of death has not come, then even after stabbing, I will survive.
No, but the odds change drastically after and before being stabbed. After stabbing, your chances of surviving are lesser.
But that is the karmic bond, no.
So you are saying you are willing to gamble your life on your karma?
Who am willing to gamble? In this point of time, if you ask me, and I know people will not accept it, the knife is Kali, the man who's stabbing me is Kali. So why should I worry?
So you are saying...
If my faith is so strong, and if I talk about surrender and I'm in complete surrender, I know, then what's there to worry?
Okay, so let me paint
But I'm not stupid that, mujhe maar,
So you will negotiate with me? Like suppose, hypothetical, I pull out a knife and I'm like, Bhavesh...
Body reflex will work.
Yeah, no. First body reflex will happen.
Yeah, that will happen.
And then I'll be like, Bhavesh, I'm going to stab you. Will you try and convince me to not?
But why will you stab me? First question will come in my heart. Like logically I'm talking. Like क्यों मार रहा है?
ठीक है.
ज़रूरत क्या है?
हाँ. Suppose मेरे को you are in a dark part of the town and I'm trying to rob you, and after I'm done robbing you.
Sir, हमें इतना time मिलेगा ही नहीं.
क्योंकि?
Seconds में हो जाएगा वो. You will come and stab. मैं तो realize भी नहीं कर पाऊंगा.
हाँ.
I'll just be in that scenario if you're talking.
Yeah. I mean, I'll use the example more broadly. What I'm trying to say is, suppose there is incoming physical harm from somebody. Suppose somebody wants to beat you up.
See,
will you try and negotiate your way out?
There's a very fine line between spiritual and being stupid. I will not be stupid.
Yes, agreed. That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
So you will try and be like, यार ये हमें क्या करने की जरूरत है?
हाँ मतलब क्यों कर रहा है? जरूरत क्या है?
हाँ.
नहीं तूने मुझे बच्चों ने मारा था, मैं भी मार रहा हूँ. So I'll talk to you. नहीं सुना तो you stab me eventually.
Right, sure.
I'm not Superman that.
Yeah, of course.
Or Captain
I understand
America that. Yeah.
And so the spirituality, which is the
Yeah, but while dying, I'll have no regrets. While dying, I'll have no fear. And while dying, I'm already free in this birth. So what death is going to take away from me?
That is the question I was asking about. What is a good death? No fear. No.
Yeah,
this is the answer I was looking for. Okay. Fair.
So even if I go, I get a heart attack, I have no fear because I'm not dying. Only the body is dying.
And so do you wonder where the attention, the awareness, the consciousness go? Is that part of your wonder set?
Depends upon how you have lived your life. The way you have lived. What's your age? I'm sorry.
I'm 29.
29 of years you have lived will determine the moments before you die. If you're attached to something, that thought will be running to you.
Agreed.
And that will determine your death. But in my case, there's no regret. I was born by her will, I'll die by her will. Simple. And what? People will cry for 1 year. People think on my birthdays, eventually they'll forget that also.
Yeah. Everybody
they
does.
Don't care.
All
People
great
don't
men die
care.
and pass. Yeah, right.
No one
There's
cares.
no memory.
What matters is how I have lived. The quality of how I have lived. The memories of the sadhanas that I have done. And how much I've evolved. That is what matters in my case, for me. Very subjective. And I have done justice to my life or no.
Do you wonder if... Because see, this is a great answer to the question. I want to die with no fear. Because I wonder if at... What you feel at the point of death...
I am asking you one thing.
Yes, please.
When you are born, we celebrate everyone's birthday. You celebrate your birthday, my birthday. When I'm dying, why are people crying? Because there is fear of unseen.
Exactly.
So why should I worry about unseen?
I wonder if there is at least a slight cause of celebration at death.
I think life is meant to be celebrated even when you're born, not born, or even after death. Entire life is celebration because everything is Maya. No, how can you forget the basic principles? Tell me.
Fair.
Yeah.
Right. So at least there is, and especially somebody who's lived completely. If you say hamari worldly responsibility, somebody who's done that.
Yeah.
Somebody who's late 90s, 100s, who's done a full life. Yeah. At their death, there should be at least slight cause for celebration. I don't know if it's a radical idea.
In fact, when people die, this may sound very strange, but if I see someone is dying, I'm sad because the sad for the family, but happy for the person because he's free from the misery.
Right.
What happens after death? Of course, there's a full literature on it, full Garud Puran, everything. But at the moment, happy. And in fact, I think what death, according to me, is living in anxiety, fear, jealousy, constantly cribbing, crying. You're in death. You're not living. And life is very short. Live moments, experience, breathe.
How old are you?
I am 36. A bit recently.
Oh, congratulations. Recently.
I feel very old in front of you, by the way, now.
Maybe my questions are very childish. Maybe that is why. I think you come from a very wise, or if not wise, a very curious spot. Maybe that's a humbler way of putting it. Like you've actually put your money where your mouth is and your time where your desire is. And you've gone after looking for these things, trying to understand the unknown, trying to see what you can make sense of. And then, you're a very humble communicator of it as well.
My dear, I'm nothing.
Yeah,
she is my master operator. She does everything.
Sure.
The fact that she wants to have me, if she does, she will not let me in also. And people say that, it's an imagination talking to Kali and all. So those who know. Those who don't know, they don't need to know.
Explain the experience of talking to Kali.
She's...
Like what happens? You close your eyes and you can hear her?
She's in everything, no? If you think that, I'm not talking about higher states normally. If you think that one day she's going to come and tell you, Prakhar, do this, do that. That's very rare when you're a very evolved being. But, for normal people like us, she will open doors, help you. Someone will come and help you. Some direction will come. Automatically, sab flow mein ja raha hai. She's always around. But the problem is you don't want that what she's giving. You want something else only. She's giving you a nice house, but you want that 10-50 building floors ka building, which is not meant for you. The small house is not appreciating, but once you realize that small house will give you everything in return, that is where the flow of surrender comes.
Yeah. So, and it seems like a very interesting part of your philosophy, because I'll tell you what, I'll give you my honest feedback, right? This is it's a conversational issue very often with people from the spirituality bent is because their worldview is, it's without this and without that. Neti in a way, right? Like I am nothing is something that you would expect somebody who's on the spiritual path to say.
No. No. Why?
No. Why is it?
No. Why? Matlab, you are nothing, but that doesn't mean that you don't operate.
No, of course. What I'm trying to say is it becomes very difficult to have a conversation.
Yeah, that is very true.
Right? Because,
that is very true.
So I have to sort of pull out an answer
very true,
using
very true.
all my techniques. Because please भाई, कोई मतलब अगर जैसे मान लो भक्ति होता है ना, suppose
very true.
They will dedicate everything to Radha. And at that point, how do I ask a question and figure them out deeper? So like that sort of
100%
happens.
accepted, because it is important, because now when I'm talking to you, I also being very aware that my ego is I know so many things.
Right.
This is my downfall. So I offer it to.
Right.
Generally, I'm not vocal about it, but I'm being vocal because
you feel like I'll understand.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think you are a curious man to actually apply it also somewhere.
Right. And I'm humble enough to be like, my point of view does not matter here. Right.
And I'm really understanding your point of view also, because that curious point is very important. So
right.
It is balancing
back
each other.
And forth.
But generally when we talk outside, I said, okay, you are the king, you be the king. Your life, your ship, your rules, do whatever you want.
Right.
It is not my place. But now we're talking because I think it is required.
Right. I completely understand. It's a very interesting sort of bent to have to life as well. But when I asked you a question earlier on, which is what is your philosophy? And I'm realizing with a man like yourself, it's harder to get the answer directly. What I come to realize after about 20, 30, 40 minutes of talking is that a large part of your philosophy is surrender.
I think, everyone talks about surrender, bhakti. It is very, very difficult, because I think it is very easy to say that I leave everything in the hands of Bhagwan or Kali or Shiva or Shakti and everything. But surrender can only be possible when you have elements of Gyan and Karam together. And imagine where you are in a state where you don't take any credit. At the same time, you don't take any downfall. And there's someone looking after you, just leave it in their hands. वो बात करने के लिए बहुत easy है, but in situation if you do that and you're aware about it. In Bhagavad Gita, beautifully, Sthita Prajna, there's a man with a steady intellect. No matter what happens, intellect is very steady. If you are in that steady intellect, you are evolving. That is the first step of bhakti. So everything you do, and in fact, bhakti also gets difficult when even in my enemy I see divinity.
Fair. Right.
So they're evolving. If you have experienced such states, and that time if someone is yelling at you or someone is doing something wrong and you've realized, he's doing it in ignorance, I should just pray for them.
You have softness, you have kindness towards them.
Yes, then compassion will come.
Compassion will come. That's the
compassion is a great enlightened or evolved being has two important traits. One is humbleness, the second is compassion.
Right. To go back to my question, I was asking, what does surrender look like? What does it feel like? How does one do it? How does one practice this in daily life?
How to put it in simple language?
You want me to try?
Yeah.
I have an amateur version of all of these things, right?
Yeah.
Like I have a grammar for this because I'm a collector of experiences and I'm a writer of thoughts. I think there are two states. This is very trippy. Okay, this may make no sense to people watching.
No, I'm loving it.
I don't know when I had this thought. maybe 8 or 9 years ago. I realized when I'm afraid, I'm not breathing in completely, and when I'm ashamed, I'm not breathing out completely.
True.
So when I'm afraid,
because any state of mind, if it changes, it directly affects your breath.
Right.
Which is very clear.
Right.
First Hatha Pratipika, first thing.
And this is all pre-Vipassana. Like this is something I just bumped into. And when I'm ashamed, it's on the upper side, not on the lower side.
Yes.
And so I realized there's something about the breath and this and that. There was a moment in my life, many years after this, where I realized I had no instinct left anymore. Like I was so anxious, so afraid, and so tamasic in a certain way. I'd fallen into such a position. I would ask my friends who were somewhat intuitive and spiritually inclined. I was like, boss, I don't have an instinct. I don't know what to do. I have to think everything through, and it's very tiring. And one of my friends, his name is Philip. He's an army veteran. He would be like, Prakhar, you need to let go. You need to surrender. Be like, boss, what is this? How do I let go? What am I holding on to? I can't tell. And he eventually said something. He's like, bro, the physical form of letting go or surrendering is breathing out. He says, just breathe out. Just breathe out. I have another friend who's a big fan of flow, who's a big fan of surrender. And his thing is, I don't keep me for it. It'll all work out. I'll just move with the way time moves. I'll just answer questions as they emerge. and something or the other shapes up. And it does for him. Life is much easier for him than anybody I know because he's just not bothered that much. And so surrender is physically the act of breathing out and intellectually not worrying too much and letting life take its shape. This is what I've understood of flow and surrender. Is that
Can we add one more thing to
Please,
it?
yes.
Also being constantly aware that I'm not the doer.
Right. That doing is happening to me. I'm not the doer.
Yes. So I don't take credit. So if I'm not the doer, I will not get anxiety or heavy breath because I'm not responsible for anything. In such cases, when you become aware, your actions will become spontaneously. And spontaneous action that will happen, that will be the actual flow.
This is kind of what I meant by instinct in that example. That was spontaneous action.
Then you realize that it's spontaneously ho gaya. And jab ho gaya, the doors will open.
It's very interesting also because this is exactly what Krishna is telling Arjun when he's anxious. He's deriving meaning out of self in the war.
Yes.
And Krishna is like, listen, you're all just instruments of me.
Yeah.
Right.
So coming back to that, when you're holding the knife or you are killing me, if I know that you are an instrument, then why should I worry about that?
Right. So there is no worry about death because there's a certain...
To be honest, there's no worry about anything. We are making life complicated. But this doesn't mean that I don't come, I don't talk to you. I'm not playing my role. Or when I go out, I don't eat. I'll do everything. Participate in everything, but internally unaffected.
I'll tell you also, I think what really happens, I think worry and Maya are deeply connected. Because what happens is, say I enter this room. You enter this room from here, you and I both. The first things we look at is what? The microphone and the chairs. Because the chair is something I have to sit on, the microphone is something I have to speak. Once I'm seated here, of my field of vision, the most central focus I have is on you. There is a biopsychological requirement to focus in on objects in your environment to make sense of the environment. This room would be overwhelming and would make no sense to me if I didn't know I had to come and sit and talk here. If I take somebody from Sentinel tribe in the Andaman or the Lakshadweeps, bring them here, they would not make sense of this. So our biology and psychology is programmed for sense making. When that sense making goes in overdrive and tries to answer too many uncertain questions, it becomes worry.
Now, coming back to this, whatever you're saying is true. That preparation or that is required. But in the mind, the awareness should be there that the outcome is never in your hands. You are free of the situation.
Yes. Maybe
I'm
just
not saying go unprepared. Whatever is required is there. That is a part of life. You are in Maya, you're operating in Maya, which is accepted. But the results is never in your hand.
Bro, chal, let me believe that for a second. Right? I'll work with you. That is such a fearful feeling because I'm like, wait, it's easier in a way कि I don't have to worry. Right? मैं छोड़ देता हूँ, मैं काम करता हूँ, मैं conversation करता हूँ, नहीं सोचता आगे क्या होता है. हाँ, please.
Identity crisis है ये.
Tell me more.
I don't want to let go of my identity, इसलिए fear है. कि चीजें मेरे हिसाब से होना चाहिए और मुझे कंट्रोल में रहना है.
My fear, in all fairness, is if
that you're losing your identity because you're not completely letting go of things. Somewhere we want to say in everything. That fear is coming. Fear is not that how good you are with your job. Fear is that थोड़ा मुझे grip चाहिए मेरे काम पे. Subconsciously it is working.
Because if I don't, then am I lazy or am I not looking after things? Because that's genuinely the talk.
No. See,
it's so interesting. No?
It is entangled. No.
Yeah, right. It is entangled.
Yeah, and you're entangling it because again there is fear that चीजें मेरे हिसाब से होनी चाहिए. What I'm saying is you're right, but दो condition नहीं, दो deconditioning. That I will give my best. Result मेरे हाथ में नहीं है. And more than that, anything I'm doing, I should enjoy. Automatically that enjoyment will be translated in your expression and the results will be given to you what you deserve. Nothing more, nothing less. So why to worry? But at the same time, I'm saying that, oh, sab kuch Brahman hai, sab kuch Maya hai. We call it the Vedantic shuffle. I call it the Vedantic shuffle.
You can move between layers of analysis. At the top, it means nothing, but at the bottom, it's a thing.
Vedantic shuffle here means that, I am the self, I am supreme human being, मैं कुछ नहीं करूँगा. सब कुछ माया है. I am running away from my role, right? I'm running away from my duties.
Sure, right.
So either you go this extreme, or either you come in this extreme, or you be in balance, enjoy both the extremes. Be in balance.
The middle path.
Live in this world, experience everything, prepare yourself. At the same time, be ready that results are not in my hand. Second time, internally, it is Maya. I'll enjoy the process. I'll watch the game. I'll play the game also. I will fall also. I will score also. But internally, I know that दूसरा गेम भी है जो घर पे होगा, दूसरा गेम भी है जो गाड़ी आएगा, बस. Then you are in balance and that is a perfect human being.
There is a brilliant thing that Goenka ji talks about in one of the days in his lecture. Aapne kari Vipassana? Have you sat through it?
I have done Vipassana, but another way.
Another way, right? So Goenka ji talks about the story about his guru who is Sayaji Ubakhin, and he says, I realized from Sayaji Ubakhin about how to get angry. We were talking about anger earlier. He's like, this is what he would do. Sayaji would get super mad at somebody. He would go out and he would scold him and just tell him how he's wrong. And then he would walk back in the hut smiling, be like, Goenka, see what I did to him. And he was like, he was so light about his anger. Yeah. He realized the performance of it. And then there's a parallel thing I heard from Osho in one of his lectures. Osho says, he's like, when you are crying, be crying. When you are happy, be happy. Become the thing itself, and you will see it loses all power over you.
See, Osho was a great intellect. He had great experiences also. But his words were so crisp, people took it another way altogether also. Mm-hmm. So the another thing is, as you mentioned, talking to these great beings is another tricky game because what they see and what we infer is also a problem. So we will infer things according to our state of consciousness.
Sure.
That's a big problem.
Sure. Right. No, I completely understand and think with somebody who spoke as much as Osho did, there is a lot of space for misapplication.
And his commentaries or the way he used to talk were fabulous.
No
one can...
I think at least it's the most entertaining to listen.
Yeah.
You can always say
I have realized on my journey that the great saints that I've met, they have a very... not weird, but a very different sense of humor.
Quirky sense of humor.
Very quirky. And they can change situations according to their will, and the atmosphere also changes. But the sense of humor is very, very different. In fact, Swami Nityananda, the great, he used to always sleep like this. He was a great Siddha. He used to throw stones on people. In the beginning, people started talking bad about him, whatnot. One day, it is said he was sleeping like this, and there was a big stone. And a family came with a small girl who was completely paralyzed. And they dragged her and got for her blessings, and he threw a big stone on her. She felt unconscious. People started creating a chaos and all. When she woke up, she started walking. So we don't know how these great enlightened beings operate. They have their own ways to get things done.
Very interesting.
Yeah. There are many such great things. That is the reason it is important to have knowledge.
Actually, it's a very interesting point because this could also become a good example for the misapplication problem. Yeah. Because you see, the aesthetic of hitting a little girl with a stone is very radical. Yeah. And if this allows somebody who thinks he's a great being to pretend and go around and doing things, they can fool a lot of people with this. Yeah. So there is a misapplication problem with, I think there's a famous line. I'm not sure who said it. It's the finger that points towards God gets confused for God.
Yeah.
Right? Language is such, and the way humans interact is such that the ultimate truth cannot be put into words and explained because the words become it, as opposed to it being, a derivative of the words. And in that way, I think there's a misapplication problem with all spiritual wisdom is that people, they sometimes apply a lot of their own interpretation to it.
True. That is the reason. You're very right. That is the reason. Knowledge is very important. From where the source is coming. At the same time, again, see, very simple. Anything in life. If I'm saying knowledge either bind you or liberate you. If you have this awareness all the time, you are in balance. Too much of knowledge without experience is also binding. And too much of experience without understanding what is written is also a problem.
I think one very interesting facet in which is accessible to our religious software, to put it simply, is the idea of Ras and Leela.
Yeah.
Which I don't think, I've never really found a lot of other religions discussing this way.
True.
Because other religions are framed as tests, complete tests of God, right? But the fact that this is divine dance, we're just characters.
There is no test. You will no test. The more you walk on the path and the more you evolve, you will realize, at point of time, talking to you, now when you look back, few years back, don't you think that there was a entire pattern that was set? And beautifully, everything was falling into place.
I'm not sure if I feel that way. I just feel like it's random events unfolding.
How?
I mean, I don't...
How random events?
I mean, it's random in the sense, I don't know how to decode if there's a pattern to it. It just happens.
No, not a pattern, but it was beautifully flowing. Not flow, beautifully things led into each other so that you're here.
I have moments where I feel that I didn't realize that significance of that is this.
Yeah.
Wow.
So at that time, when you think something is wrong, you crib, you cry, you whatever, sulk in it. But later, years back, when you turn around, you realize that because of that, I'm here today.
It's super accurate. It's super accurate. I had a very catastrophic career-killing moment early on in my career, and I felt so bad about it. I felt like I didn't even get a fair chance to represent myself. Now, when I look back, I know I can never be smitten by fame because I've seen the downside of it.
That's it.
I'm in so many ways immune to that poison.
So the more you mature, the more the mind goes quiet, you realize that there's a beautiful pathway given.
Right.
You just have to walk on it. Have no fear, walk on it. And even if you think you're falling, that road will take you somewhere else. Again, it will take you high. But again, the ego is funny. It takes over.
You mentioned ego a couple of times too, and I want to talk about ego. I also want to get back to Leela and Ras because that's something I think if people understood, their lives are going to be a lot better. Tell me about ego. What is the ego and how does one spot it?
I have this beautiful saying, it is not ego, it should be I go. The moment I goes, you are completely good to go. That means the moment you think that I am in charge of everything and because of me everything is happening and I take credit for everything, that is the biggest downfall on the spiritual path. Ego is important. See, even in ego there are 3 egos, Sattva, Raja, Tama. So our goal is to get to Sattvic ego, but before that also, ego is very simple. The moment you take credit for anything, you will have to pay for it. Because nothing is permanent. Every credit also has a downfall. The moment you realize that I'm doing it as an offering, then you will evolve. So ego is not good or bad, but what is the worry point is the spiritual ego. That is very dangerous.
That's probably the most dangerous.
That is my point. So I'm not worried about ego because, hey, you need ego to sustain the body also.
Sure.
If you don't have ego, you'll go into samadhi.
To pass your exams, you need ego.
Yes.
Because you need to believe
ego.
you can do it.
Because
like there has to be a concentration of self.
Ego, when channelized with awareness, can give you motivation.
Fair.
But spiritual ego is very, very dangerous.
And I feel like you probably meet a lot of people of that nature in your field. Because this is the last frontier of ego. The last temptation on the road to spirituality is thinking, now I am spiritual, therefore I'm better. And now you've mixed the dirtiest part of the mind with what was an approach for the most positive part in your mind, right? That happens very often.
There's a very beautiful story. There was a great being who was on the verge of getting enlightened. Was almost there. He used to get glimpses or the flow or whatever you call it. I don't want to name it. Or samadhi or whatever. He was there and all of a sudden he had a desire that I wish I was a butterfly. He left his body. He had a life of a butterfly, lived for a few days, and then he went to his final stage. So that means wherever there is ego, there is desire, there is want, there is greed.
There's a new loop that completes. Yes.
And that spiritual desire is full of this. That is the most worry on the path. Ego, you can't operate. The divine has given you ego to sharpen your intellect. It's like a razor. The knife is used to cut the cake or kill someone. You decide.
As a matter of fact, a litmus test for how real a spiritual speaker is to me, right? Because I speak to so many, is if I ask them about questions of ego and how humble their response is to the question of ego. Because I'm telling you as a matter, I don't know, maybe I'm intellectually not seeing this right, but you cannot pass an exam without ego. Because you first need to believe that there is a doer who is going to do a thing and then he has to work towards it. There has to be effort. I can do it. All these things have to happen.
I accept, again with the understanding
that
it will either bind you or liberate you is up to you.
Right. This is the performance. Knowing that this is a game I'm playing.
But this ego is okay. Spiritual ego is the biggest downfall if you get entangled in that.
Fair.
That is when, you think that you are supreme, higher than others. Or you get some occults, or you think that is another ball game. So this ego is okay. I'm talking about this ego where it is another thing.
Boss, you need to go to California to spot that. If you go to there, like people thinking they are, I've done 5 ayahuascas, so I have it manifests in all these different ways and becomes blocker to transcendence. I have noticed.
So when I was talking about ego, I'm talking about the spiritual ego.
Right.
That okay, I have knowledge. No, it doesn't belong to me. That is the reason putting Kali there is very important for me because she is the one who will chop my ego off. Spiritual ego is dangerous.
I think the reason I asked you about ego is because it's a direct antithesis, or rather, the antithesis to ego is Leela and Ras. And if you understand that this is a divine dance, there is no way you can
Definitely. That is the reason why Kali comes in.
Yeah. Interesting.
Leela is something very beautiful. I think it's a change of perception. Either watch it as an ego game or trap or watch it as Leela.
Right. Sure. Right. Exactly. Those are the only 2 options you have.
Yes.
Either you get trapped in it and think this is personal.
In fact, when you evolve on the path, you realize there are no option.
Yeah, it just happens.
It just happens.
I feel you on that too. Because the grand way in which life unfolds is barely in your control. You have maybe like 2 degrees of freedom in a 100 degree of freedom game.
Imagine if someone dies today, that we both know. Someone dies today and we are not affected and we are okay. You have evolved so much.
Yeah.
Or someone, that my job is gone or things are not doing good. You have understood that ego, spiritual ego, everything. And that is an experience that you're talking about. And that is far greater than any book that you have read.
Agreed.
Then you have become an experiential being. And that knowledge, when it will talk, you will be confident, you'll require no validation because you're living it.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to defend it then because it's your lived truth.
After a while, when you evolve on the path, you will not even talk about it because you'll realize that मतलब ही नहीं है. मैं समझा रहा हूँ, मतलब नहीं है. वो समझे तो ठीक, नहीं समझे तो भी ठीक.
There is a very famous story about the moment Gautam Buddha awakened. And when he awakened, he realized that there is no point of speaking because people who know need no push and people who do not know will work with no push. And so 7 days he stays silent. He's of the opinion that this is it until the story goes on that many deities and devas approached him. Said, listen, there are also people on the ledge, on the boundary. And only for the sake of those people, if you spoke, they will fall on to the knowing side, then remaining on the unknowing side. And that is what convinced him to preach and teach. Such an interesting way to look at the world.
You know, many people ask that, what do you communicate with your guru? What is there? I think it's only silence. Because that what is unsaid, in that space, everything is communicated.
How often do you speak to your guru?
I live with her.
So you speak every day?
We just talk. The communication is always there. The Leela is always there. And when I do something wrong, just by eyes, I know that, okay, Bhavesh, abhi injection hai sham ko. So you just know. Leelas are there.
Right.
Yeah. And they crush your ego. They'll crush it. And only for your benefit. They don't expect anything. So actual guru plays a role because they have gone through it. Only when you have taken the road to Faridabad here, I know about how to take the road.
Right, exactly.
So they have taken the road to Faridabad. They have come and now you're stuck somewhere. They will 20 hours ka journey, they'll make it 5 hours. That is the reason guru is important. And a constant reminder.
I know you don't generally worry about the future, and I think I will have to pry this answer out of you in some different way, but I'll ask you a direct question. What do you see yourself doing in the future?
Very good question, because today morning I was asked this question in the cab while coming. What do you...
The cab wala was asking you?
No, Amritji was asking me, kya karna hai aage? I said, I don't know, and he laughs. Because he's like, since 5 years I'm hearing the same thing.
Right.
But things are happening. So I said, let it happen. Because I have a very simple understanding, not a philosophy, practical. The day she wants, I call her Kali, or the day, whatever you call it, doors will open and no one can stop it. The day she doesn't want, nothing will happen. My duty as an instrument is to be fit, fine, doing in my best capacity and to show up. That's it.
And you understand the capacity is to spread the word in some way?
I don't know. No.
You're a communicator.
I hope I am.
I think you are.
If she wants.
No, I mean...
Not talking that way, but talking
internally,
openly.
Okay, there's an internal conversation you have, right? Leave that for the world outside, for people that know Bhavesh, for people that watch this podcast and will find out about you. For them, you're a communicator of ideas, spiritual ideas, and these spiritual ideas are not like the Krishnamurti school of remove all abstraction and speak directly at the truth. It's rooted in tradition, it's rooted in ritual, it's rooted in deity. So there's a specific identity the world gives you.
Yeah, I don't know, but I think practically what I'm going through my own experiences, like we are making life very complicated. Don't segregate life that this is my professional life, this is my spiritual life. Take life as it comes. Put it together. We are humans. Yes, Bharat has given that knowledge how to become the perfect human being. Apply it. At the same time, don't run away from everything. A human being who's living in the mountains, not playing his role, is not a perfect human being. Of course, it is different when I say that, suppose their karma will take wherever what is. But, now this is a concept. Spirituality matlab sab kuch chhod diya. Get followers, become cool, talk, no.
एक ये है, दूसरा end पता है क्या है? The other end is, say spiritual, do material. Right? It's this sort of, and you will see this in the West popping up quite a lot also, but like this approach of becoming the modern monk. I once found an Instagram handle that went the monk who bought his Ferrari. Yeah. That was I'm genuinely I'm not making this up, and it begs the question of like, didn't they just buy the Ferrari? Like drop the monk. Drop the monk. Like why marry them forcefully? Right? So it seems like there's an insistence on drop everything and go this way, or pretend like you got both the boats ridden.
So very good question, because we get this question. You're spiritual, you should doing this. I have a very simple understanding. Everything in moderation is good.
Fair.
Simple. Keep it simple. Everything in moderation is very good. Now you should know what moderation is. And again, I come back to the basic because we are meeting for the first time. It will either bind you or liberate you. It is up to you. Simple Rako life.
In binding and liberation as concepts, how does tradition and ritual play a part? Because it would appear that tradition and ritual would bind you.
Of course.
So it always binds you.
So ritual, if you're doing something, it will bind you. It is a way, but you should have that awareness that even after one day, that ritual will stop. Because I came here in a cab. उतना ही रोल था कैब का. ऊपर आने की जरूरत नहीं थी. Free. It has played its role.
And is there an importance to ritual in your worldview?
I think rituals are very scientific. It is not just offering flowers. It is not just praying and ringing bells. In fact, when we do our puja, which we don't, just giving you some ideas, while offering flowers, we exhale. So all the energy from the body is given to the deity. We take certain mudras. We evoke that deity. And when the puja is over, the entire thing, we take it back in the body because the deity is not outside, the deity is inside. So rituals are a way to remind you and keep you connected. But eventually with time, the ritual will also stop. Because it will happen constantly inside. So depending upon your sabhava, depending upon your evolution, depending upon the guru's guidance, depending upon in what state you're operating, it changes.
No, I do understand. Rituals are a collective set of actions that make the unseen seen.
Yeah, and people say that, you're offering fruits to all. The deity takes that energy in subtle forms. So subtly everything is working. Now they're talking about energy and all, but I think the great rishis knew it. The mudras that you take also, so it is completely scientific.
What is this mudra?
What do you think this is mudra? I've seen many people taking this mudra. What is this mudra?
I just do not want to have my hands like this, so I start doing like this. It's a gun. Like that's...
I see people taking this mudra. I see people taking this mudra. I see people taking this mudra.
It's an awkwardness of the camera situation because see, if I sit like this, it's a very different body posture. Somebody told me, listen, you open up your arms a little more. So I was like, I'll just sit like this.
This is people say channelizing. This is yoni mudra. This, but I believe you're doing this.
Yeah.
But if the mind is not aligned and you don't have the knowledge,
I don't have the knowledge. That's what I'm asking.
Work.
Yeah. So what am I trying to channel here? Or maybe this, but what does this
even
mean?
This is a mudra. Even this is a mudra.
This is a gang sign on the East Coast. This is a gang sign.
So when we talk about mudras, there's a perfect science to it. You need to be at that level. You need to channelize your prana. You need to do pranayam. You need to do shuddhikaran. Then these will start working with proper mantras.
Achha.
So I'm just cutting it off because we get a lot of things that show me this mudra, do this mudra. I avoid such topics because there are two sets of people. Those are already into it and they ask questions is very different. And that you answer because they require that push to understand right knowledge. And those are people who want to get there by doing anything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
ठीक है,
so
वो
basically मैं
desireful
सिर्फ
है.
घुमा रहा हूँ question को because
वो answer देना, I get it.
Yeah.
I completely get it.
Yeah.
What I've realized from this conversation up until is really, I think, the grand lesson of this conversation. And what I understand of your worldview is participate but don't drown. Right? Participate in the world, but remain of the constant awareness that this is participation.
Yeah.
My language, it is play the game, but don't get married to the game.
Yes.
Right?
Because you have to play multiple games.
Because you have to play multiple games throughout life in the same moment.
Nature will make you play multiple games.
Right. Is there a central lesson you'd like to pass on?
Before talking about great spiritual talks or before getting into such, be a good human. Appreciate others, be gentle, and work on jealousy and competition.
That's a big one, huh?
Yeah.
For ambitious people, that's a huge one. Yeah.
Let people do. Everyone has their own thing. Let them. You do your thing.
Yeah.
Your greatest competition, your greatest jealousy should be how you evolve. And I think love and compassion is something which we are lacking. We are very selective. Selective convenience. I know Prakhar, so I'll love him more. I don't know him, so I won't love him more.
You're out, dude. You lost.
So this is what we are lacking.
Right. Is there a question you have for me? Since I've been asking questions all this while.
I think you should start some practices.
Okay.
Intellectual practices. That was good for you.
Like?
And I think just for you specifically, just disconnect, sit with yourself. I think that Vipassana has a great impact on you, but don't take it personally. I think you have to be consistent. थोड़ा आधा घंटा निकाल के 1 घंटा निकाल के. So do some Tratak. You will enjoy it. Tratak is a very beautiful Shat Karma. You gaze at the candle without blinking.
And how long?
And I think that your Sabhava demands that. So this is a personal thing. I don't know if it should come out or no, but it's a personal thing.
Shoot at me. I'm so interested. Look, I took off my glasses. Tell me.
For you it is coming, of course, because Kali wants only. There's a very beautiful exercise which you will enjoy it. And it will give you clarity of mind also. Tratak is a process where we take a diya, mud ka diya, keep it 1 arm distance at your eye level. Look into it without blinking.
For how long?
जितने देर कर पाओगे.
पर फिर blink हो गया then start again?
नहीं, starting में blink होगा of course. मतलब blink होगा, flicker होगा. But do it. You will realize a lot of things about your own self. Do it for good 6 months.
Do it for 6 months?
3 महीने में you will enjoy it.
नहीं ठीक है, that part I follow.
Yeah, so sit cross-legged or sit on the chair, but spine should be straight.
Spine should be straight.
So this is my diya, for example. 1 arm distance right now.
You keep your mic close, I'll keep the diya here. So that
at your eye level? At your eye level, yeah. वो नहीं होगा भैया. And just look into it, बस.
ठीक है.
बस. And breathe. Normally. Let the body breathe. In a dark room.
In a dark room.
In a dark room.
So it has to be done at night, basically.
Yeah, basically in a dark room.
And so say I'm doing this, I'm looking at this, and then my eyes blink, I just start again.
Yeah, it will blink. But later with time, you'll realize that the eyes is not blinking. It is open. And then later you'll realize many things, but I don't want to tell you because the mind has the property to create things when it is said.
I get that.
Yeah. So then you message me and then you will laugh. Yeah.
We will laugh together.
Yeah.
And is that a 30-minute thing or a 1 hour thing, or should I not think of it like this?
You do it first 3 minutes to कर लो.
3 अच्छा लेकिन एक ही बार करना अलाउड है ब्लिंक करके फिर वो स्टॉप
नहीं ब्लिंक करोगे स्टार्टिंग में आप इट्स ओके ब्लिंक ओपन इट्स ओके
बट 3 minutes and then I'm done.
Yeah, 3 minutes करो तो सही. It is difficult for sit for 2 minutes also. 3 minutes दूर की बात.
Yeah, I know that. I know 20 seconds what they feel.
So बैठो. Then we'll see what to do. But start with this because you're not the type who's going to do rituals or mantra chanting. You're not. That is not your vibe.
No.
Your vibe is different. So then you do breath work. Then you'll enjoy. So first ये तो करो.
6 months you said.
6 months is too much. Do it for 1 month. Then we'll get into it.
I'll call you in 1 month. Yeah. I'll put my notes down in 1 month.
You should do it.
Feels. Yeah.
Then breath work will come.
I massively appreciate how straight up you are about that too. I actually don't mind that one bit. I love that. Huh?
But that is what it is now.
I agree.
If the person likes it, doesn't like it, it's not my burden. My job is to tell.
And you've told me from your spontaneity, which I genuinely appreciate. Thank you so much.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And you will realize the subtlest emotions that you were running away from, you will encounter it.
Wow.
And then the breath will come. That combination of breath and Tratak is where your actual meditation or dharana begins. For long run.
Beautiful. Man, this has been a very enjoyable conversation.
Yeah, I'm very grateful because it's a very raw conversation. Like you are very...
this is who I am outside, inside.
Yeah. So very spontaneous and
I just
out
go
of the
from...
box. Yeah.
I generally will carry this artifact because I sometimes have things written on it.
Yeah.
I never open it.
Yeah.
And
that's
every
good.
time it's closed, I mean I've done a good conversation.
And I'm glad that it is your experience that is your... We are getting in together. Yeah. That is good.
Yeah,
but Tratak is a game changer. Try it.
I am...
Of course, breath and Tratak together is a dynamite, but slowly.
Let's start.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming. I'm going to steal you again. We're going to have more conversations in the future.
Very, very grateful. Thank you so much.